If you're looking for a breakfast recipe that you can make for a crowd or for meal prep, I have the perfect solution for you here. This is my veggie breakfast bake. I do a nice generous portion to serve 6, but you can make your portion smaller if you'd like. But any way you slice it, this is delicious. So if you'd like to see how this is done, stick around because it's coming up next. Hello and welcome to my kitchen. My name's Roy. I'm a home cook and amateur baker, and I'm here on this channel sharing recipes that have helped me to lose over 125 pounds, whether those recipes are mine or someone else's. Now today is one of mine, and it's actually one I was going to do next month because we do have a collab coming up next month, but I decided to do it today because I was still working on the recipe. And I figured, why not test it here on the channel? But the way I'm doing it today should be the final product. And if it's not, the recipe will be amended. I just need to make sure that I have the veggies cooked enough. So what I'm doing today is what I'm calling a veggie breakfast bake. And you don't have to use the veggies that I'm using. You can swap it up for something that you'd prefer. You could also add some cooked bacon or sausage. You could chop up some ham or Canadian bacon. So you can add some meat to it. I just decided to have the meat on the side and do this as basically a vegetarian option. Not vegan because of the eggs, but vegetarian. So let us go over the ingredients. I have, of course, my cooking spray. I'm going to use that on my sheet pan to coat my vegetables so the seasoning sticks, but also for my cheeses. I'm using fat-free cheeses, and if you know anything about fat-free cheeses, it does not like to melt. But if you spray it with a little cooking spray, it'll melt just like regular cheese. I have here 3 cups of broccoli florets, and I've cut them into little bite size. I've basically quartered each of the florets because I don't want big chunks of the broccoli in there. I want it to be able to be bite size so that way you're not having giant pieces of broccoli to get around. I have here 6 eggs. Those are currently at room temperature only because I was prepping everything, but they don't have to be at room temperature. I have here 3 squash. I have 2 zucchini and a summer squash. You can do all zucchini, all summer squash, a mixture. You can take it out and put something else in its place. This is a very adaptable recipe to what you have on hand and what your preferences are. I have here 1 medium onion chopped. They're not too small a piece. They're probably about 1/2 inch because you want it to be able to cook at the same time as the other ingredients. Same thing with, I have 1 medium red pepper here. And again, it's just chopped into probably 1-inch pieces just to make it about the same size as everything else. I have here 12 spears of asparagus. And again, same thing. I just chopped them up into 1-inch pieces. Now, when you're cutting asparagus, cut off the very bottom, the woody end they call it, because that is very fibrous and not very pleasant to eat. If you're not sure where the woody end is, you just bend the asparagus gently. You don't try to snap it. You just bend it gently until it snaps on its own, and that will remove the woody end. What I typically do is I will snap one and then just cut the rest of them with a knife because I'm not going through snapping all of them. So I usually approximate, and I've never had an issue. Usually about the bottom third is a safe bet. I have here 1/4 cup of non-fat Greek yogurt. That is going to be mixed in with the eggs to help give us a more creamy texture on the eggs. I have here 3/4 cup of fat-free cheddar cheese and 3/4 cup of fat-free mozzarella. Now, if you have any difficulties finding those, you don't have to use those. You could swap one of them out for fat-free feta, but I would reduce it to a half cup because feta tends to be a bit stronger, but you definitely want some cheesiness in there. I have here 3/4 teaspoon of black pepper divided. It's divided because some of it will be going into one part of the recipe, some will be going into another part. So typically whenever you see in a recipe, comma, divided, it means it's not all going in at once, so make sure you read the recipe. I have here 1 teaspoon of salt, again divided, 1 teaspoon of dried thyme, and 1 teaspoon of minced garlic. And you can up the garlic if you want a little bit more. You can remove it if you don't want any. As I said, this is a flexible dish. All right, so I have my sheet pan here and I have my oven preheated to 400 degrees. So what I'm gonna do is shuffle a few things around and we're gonna get started. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to spray the sheet pan with cooking spray. You want this done on a sheet pan. If you do only have like a 9x13, you would have to bake it a little bit longer because the egg will be a little more dense. So I have my cooking spray there. Going to dump on my broccoli, red pepper, asparagus, and onion. I'm gonna just stir that around with my hands a little bit. And I did just realize I forgot an ingredient. So once I get this in the oven, I will show you that other ingredient. I'm going to take 1/2 teaspoon of the salt, sprinkle that all over, and 1/4 teaspoon of the pepper, and then stir that through again so that the salt and pepper can season the entire veggie mix here. So now this is going to go into the oven for about 10 minutes. Then we are going to add in the zucchini and the squash, but I'll show you that step as well. Let me get this in the oven and I'll get that missing ingredient. All right, so the missing ingredient was 12 little cherry or grape tomatoes, and I'm going to slice those in half because those are gonna go on once the other veggies come out of the oven, but I'll show you that step. But I'm going to take these tomatoes and cut them in half. All right, so I have my 12 cherry tomatoes, or rather in this case, grape tomatoes. For some reason, cherry tomatoes are a little harder to find this season than they have been. So I'm going to set these aside and I'll be back when we're ready to throw in our zucchini and squash. Okay, so there's 10 minutes gone and you can see everything is nice and steamy. So now we're going to add in our zucchini and squash. And I'm looking at the amount of zucchini and squash and I'm wondering if I might reduce it, but let me see. Let me get some of this on. We're going to spread this all over. These are cut, I cut them into quarters lengthwise, and then cut each of those into about 1/2 to 1 inch slices. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go and reduce this to 2 squash or zucchini rather than 3, because 3 seems to be a bit much. So one change I'm going to make to the recipe right there, I'm just going to kind of spread that around a little bit with my spatula so that it gets a little bit of the seasoning on it, gets a little bit of heat from the other veggies, and then spread this back out. So now this is going to go back in for about 5 to 6 minutes and I'll be back. All right, so it's been about 6 minutes now and the squash is starting to soften a little bit. Now that'll soften a bit faster than the other ingredients, which is why we put them in later. Plus everything is going to be going back in shortly. So the next thing we need to do is take our forgotten tomatoes and we're just going to dot those all over, get some tomato all over. Okay, so now I'm going to just shift this over here for now and we're going to bring in our eggs. I didn't start working on them before because I'm going to let this cool slightly as I'm working on the eggs. So I'm adding in my yogurt, garlic, thyme, remaining salt, remaining pepper. And then I'm just going to whisk this all together, break up the yolks and that yogurt a bit, and whisk to get a fairly homogeneous mixture. You may still see bits of the yogurt in there, but that's fine. As it heats, it'll melt into the rest of the dish. Okay, so that looks pretty good right there. I'm going to set that aside and bring back in our veggies. Be careful with the pan because it is still hot. Now we are going to pour our egg mixture over all of our veggies and then just mix it a little bit to spread the eggs out and to get them mixed in with the veggies. Okay, now I'm going to sprinkle over our mozzarella and cheddar cheeses. You can mix them together and do it all at once if you want, that's fine. I just had them separated for the sake of the video, but you don't have to do it separately. Now that the cheese is on, we're going to do our little magic trick to get that cheese to melt and just spray it with cooking spray all over. Now this is going back into the oven for 15 minutes and then we're done. So 15 minutes and I'll be back. Okay, there we have it, my veggie breakfast bake. You can see that the eggs have puffed up around the veggies very nicely. I was slightly worried that it looked a little thin, but it puffed up just enough. You could add a couple more eggs if you really wanted to, but I think that looks good. Now I am doing this as 6 servings, which will be very generous, almost like an omelet size, but you could always reduce that to 8, 12, what have you, depending on what you were using it for. If you were doing like a brunch, you might want to have smaller portions so that people can get other things as well. But I am doing it for 6, and those are the bites, points, calories, and macros that I'll be giving you. Now, if I do make any further changes to this, which I don't think I will, they will be on the recipe, so don't worry about making sure you have the accurate numbers for calories and macros. For bites and points, it's not really going to change because for 1/6 of this, 0 Better Balanced bites or Old Blue points. I'm on the Healthy Better Balanced plan, which is equivalent to the old WW Blue plan. So those are the bites and points that I give, and you can estimate, depending on what plan you're on, where you fit in the numbers. Now I did adjust the calories and macros to only take on 2 of the squash. So with that being said, 1 serving of this, which as I said I'm doing is 1/6, would just be 188 calories. And if you're following macros, the fat would be 5.7 grams, the carbs would be 16.1 grams, the fiber would be 5 grams, and the protein would be 20.4 grams for 1/6 of this. Obviously, if you reduce the size, it's gonna come down a bit, but either way, it's great on the bites, points, and calories. Now, if you enjoyed this video and this recipe, I hope that you will help support my channel by doing the usual like, subscribe, comment, and share, and hit that notification bell for the next time I upload any sort of video. As I said, there is a brunch one coming up. There is a healthy dinners coming up this month on the 23rd at 9 a.m. Also on the 23rd at 2 p.m. I'm going to be going live to celebrate my 2 years on YouTube. So hit the notification bell, and anytime that I pop up, you'll know it. Now, if you want the recipe for this, that is linked directly down below in the description box. Just hit show more or more underneath this video and it'll open up the description box. You'll also find the link directly to my blog if you're looking for any of my recipes. Also down there is my Amazon storefront, Built Bar rewards, Fetch for rewards, Skinny Syrups code, and my social media if you want to follow me over there. My Instagram and 2 Facebook groups that I am a part of. Now, as I said in the tag video this week, I am trying to export my recipes from the recipe builder to my Facebook group, Recipes with Roy, in case anyone is unhealthy. But it looks like you may have to be on the same plan as me. There's a lot of juggling going on trying to figure this out, but I'm trying. Anyway, it is 4 minutes until lunchtime, so I've got to get this served up and ready to go. So until next time, bye.